Nicola Hill, who's going to explain what this all means to us. Nicola, tell us more about these findings.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting theory, Maria, isn't it? It's one that's been published in the journal by two infectious disease specialists from the University of California. And one of them, Dr. Monica Gandhi, says, look, she's not necessarily saying everyone needs to go out and get infected. But what she's saying is that masks that most of us are wearing stop the majority of virus droplets being inhaled by other people, which is why we have this big campaign to wear masks the whole time. But the smaller droplets do still get through. And what she's saying is that a lot of people who have asymptomatic or very, very low levels of infection, who aren't that ill, often it's because they have much less exposure to the virus because they're wearing masks. And she says this is something called, now this is a very unusual term, it's called variolation. And this is what happened before we had vaccines. When people had smallpox, when smallpox ravaged across the population worldwide, what they used to do was give people a very tiny dose of the pox in the hopes that the body's immune system would then start working and prevent them getting a major dose of smallpox. And it worked to some extent. It didn't work all the time. One of the sons of King George III in England died because of this. But it was the precursor to the vaccine. And what Dr. Gandhi is saying is, in a way, masks that we're wearing is doing something very similar. We're then being exposed to very low doses of the virus, and because of that, we're either getting very low levels of infection or we're asymptomatic. And she sort of says there's been evidence of this when there was a cruise ship in Argentina. A lot of the people then wore masks, and afterwards 81% of those who tested positive were asymptomatic. And she says animal studies have shown that when animals have been exposed to very low levels of the virus, they have very low levels of infection. And this contrasts, of course, to at the beginning of the pandemic, when healthcare workers in particular, exposed to a lot of the virus, were seriously ill and died because they weren't wearing any masks or PPE. And that's why she's now sort of saying that we need to do more studies looking at this. We need to see if people do wear masks the whole time, if they are exposed to these low levels of the virus, does that mean that we've got some immune response so that if we then come into contact with much greater levels, we're fine. We're sort of, in a way, inoculated.
Nicola, and that golden question, this is great, but where does this leave so many people that refuse to wear masks? Very quickly.
Yeah. Well, that's why she's saying that you need to have people like the presidents wearing masks the whole time to encourage everyone to wear a mask. If they feel that they don't want to necessarily do it because they believe the evidence is ambiguous, she says that's rubbish. There's been 900 studies on the viability of masks in COVID-19, and this in itself should encourage all of us to wear them all the time.
Absolutely, all the time. Nicola Hill, thank you very much indeed.